Hello, hello, hello. We are back live with another edition of DevHub Live. We've been off a few weeks playing some replays. I hope everyone was able to catch up on some of those great episodes. We've had some really awesome guests over the past year, and want to make sure that we're highlighting and kind of bringing some of those back. And they're all relevant topics, I think, that are, if you're building or you're interested in near or what's going on just in the larger ecosystem. I think those were some great episodes the past few weeks. Today, we are heavy focused on a lot of things that are happening right directly in the ecosystem. I have two of my awesome colleagues, Josh and Trenton, jumping on here to talk about what's happening and some of the different releases that we've had around the wallet selector, some RFPs that are out there for infrastructure. We got news to talk about, and we may even have a special appearance from a fan favorite as well. So, without further ado, again, I will show the newsletter at the end as always. But why don't we get Josh and Trenton on the stage here and let's start talking about what is happening in the ecosystem. Trenton, Josh, how are you guys?
Good.
Hey, doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. There is so many places to start, but I want to begin with the wallet selector. This has been something that was initially a high point of excitement when it first released to unify the wallets, and then it became a thorn in people's sides for a while. And now we're here at version 9, and I think it's a really nice update. Uh, Whoever wants to jump in, and feel free to kind of what's special about version 9.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So our friend Guillermo was really instrumental in kind of coordinating all the pieces for version 9 and getting it tested. And so a shout out to him for his hard work on that. It was great. So the most important thing I think about version 9 is the upgrade to the latest, hey Vlad, update to the latest version of Near API.js. So that was lagging behind pretty dramatically. There's quite a bit of improvements to both the performance and the functionality of Near API.js. And it was holding back several wallet integrations with compatibility issues. And it was that, talk about thorn in your side, was a very constant problem trying to get it released and get it tested because of those backwards compatibility issues. So that's probably the most significant change, and that's why we bumped it to the major version. Is we needed to update that version. There's some other quality of life improvements in there. There was a ton of updates to documentation on the wallet selector side, just some stuff that was lagging behind that needed to get updated. So there's quite a few little changes in there. We've the business package deprecations because some of these wallets just aren't around anymore, or we moved off of them. For instance, the Near wallet hadn't been deprecated for some reason for like ever and ever. It didn't need to be removed. So a lot of it's just feature improvements. One of the things that Guillermo did for us was dramatically improve the load time for wallets. So there was for the nerds out there, it was kind of a synchronous approach that was kind of holding things up, and now it's an asynchronous approach, and it does a really great job of just loading up quickly. So yeah, like I said, a lot of kind of speed improvements, quality of life improvements, but most importantly, it's up to Near API.js 5. In kind of a similar way. Excuse me here. Kind of a similar way. Looks like Near API.js is coming up on another major version for itself, so we'll have to go through this exercise again, and that takes a little bit of time from a testing perspective, right? We have to go through and basically test every single wallet and every single integration. So
Right.
That takes a little bit more effort. It's not something we can just do quickly. So Near API.js will have to upgrade, and then we will have to test it in wallet selector before we push it out.
Yeah, I think what's important here is, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I think was fixed, and I like the backwards compatibility. But as a builder, especially the asynchronous stuff, having the user experience improved because things are loading faster. It's less weight on your product. Those are things that really should, is why we want people to upgrade to this. It's why we're making a push to get the word out that if you haven't updated in a while, this is a good version to jump up to and make sure that you're up to date on, because it is a better user experience, if nothing else.
Yeah. And one
Two
one other
things.
thing.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna tag on two things to it.
Yeah.
For developers and even like users of their applications. One major thing was that now we have a modal for uh, when you're now like clicking to sign in or sign a transaction. No longer do you now have to go to a different page and now reload the application. Now it just pops up a modal, so it doesn't really break your UX anymore, which is super important for like my Near wallet, Meteor, those people that are using those wallets that previously would redirect. And also we did add some React hooked libraries and examples just to making it a little bit easier for you to call and use some of the functionality. Just kind of really wanting to use more hooks and just simplifying functions for developers so it's easy for them. And you can see those at Near dash examples repository, or I'm sorry, GitHub organization. We have examples in there for you to check out and implement into your code. But yeah, those are two other things I would like to shout out in the wallet update.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I think along with the wallet update, so going forward, there's also going to be kind of this split of two kind of versions of the wallet selector. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the infrastructure committee put out a request for a new maintainer for the wallet selector, and we got two really great proposals. And so instead of deliberating on which one we were going to go with, the infrastructure committee decided to approve two different ones. So the first proposal that was approved is for what we're calling wallet selector version 1. That is by Lucid Labs, and Lucid Labs is going to take over the maintenance of the current wallet selector that we're talking about today. So they're going to take over the regular updates, the maintenance, coordinating of PRs, and then they have some improvements that they want to make. They want to do a refactor and improve the code, and maybe add some features. There's a pretty steady request of feature requests that come in on the wallet selector code base, so they're going to take care of that. Then Hot Labs, our friends here, Hot Wallet, Telegram Wallet, they made a proposal for kind of a injected wallet standard, like an injected paradigm. So we're calling that wallet selector version 2. It's a brand new. It's really not. It doesn't really have any basis on the previous version, and it builds a framework. So builders will just add a framework to their code base, and otherwise the code is pushed to it. So what this allows us to do is basically eliminate the mono repo, and each individual package will be responsible for their code and compatibility. And so it gives us a little bit, it gives us some more speed to market, right? So each wallet can, add features if they need to, fix problems, and then just put it in there, just publish it to their package, their npm package, and it will just push out to wallet selector v2. So it's a pretty exciting development. We kind of act as a bottleneck sometimes because we're doing releases basically every 2 weeks realistically, and this would allow people to basically publish as they needed to, putting the control back into the hands of the dApps and the wallet builders.
If I may add, I want to point out that it's only possible because the Hot team is working on some improvements to the protocol, like how to integrate wallet selector in your application in a secure way. So you do not just randomly download some random JavaScript code on your web page. That would be hazard from a security standpoint. And instead, they are working on some iframe integration that would be isolated. You wouldn't be able to escape from there, and it would be just some messaging protocol between your website and that frame. And inside that frame, we can freely put some random code. It would be still need to be audited, but it can be then updated even after you publish your application without changing your application code. So even 2 years from now, we would finally be able to solve this problem of outdated applications that are still using the old integrations with the wallet that we cannot upgrade anymore, and we're stuck there. Some of the applications we still see are using the wallet.near.org, which is no more. And this approach, Wallet Selector version 2, would solve a lot of those problems and speed things up, hopefully, and also allow to iterate and change things much faster and bring more features, and hopefully also reduce the size of this integration, because currently each wallet builds their own way of integration, and part of the design that Hot team is working on is how to reduce and just create some of the known patterns for how to integrate with mobile wallet, how to integrate with web wallet, how to integrate with browser extension. But there are many options indeed, but they're finite, and we can design around those instead of asking each wallet to re-implement it from scratch.
And the key thing here too is, which I think is important, you hear the name Hot and you hear them here, but it's not just for their wallet. This is for all wallets to still do. So they are just taking on this project as part of the larger community, not just for them. So anyone who is building a wallet can still leverage this, which is great.
It was a request for proposals, public one from infrastructure committee, and we had several teams established and having their own projects already on Near, and new ones submitting their proposals. It just happens that the Hot team had always had this pain point that they wanted to address in Near ecosystem, and they have a lot of expertise there. And their proposal was very clear, and infrastructure committee decided to go with sponsoring it. But it was a bit risky because it would mean that you need to build it from scratch, and to de-risk it, there was another proposal also approved to make sure we have continuous support for Wallet Selector until we are ready to switch over to this v2, or who knows, they will potentially be able to merge at some point, and that would be the best for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if we absolutely get to that point, and I think as a developer, the things that you should be hearing here are, one, continuous support. So nothing is changing today. Nothing's changing tomorrow. You can still keep doing what you're doing. The new protocol is going to make it easier to update, deploy, do things like that. And then, so there's like both now and future proofing in all of this. And that commitment to support for developers, I think, is an important piece to highlight, that nothing is getting just deprecated and thrown away. You can keep doing what you're doing without the fear of having to restructure a lot of your code.
Yeah, if everything goes according to the plan, the Wallet Selector will have exactly the same interfaces. Lucid team actually works on extending those with support for meta transactions, for signing transactions without sending them through the wallet, and basically allowing the application to send the transactions. The same goes for meta transactions, and signing in without creating a new access key. So all those features will be exposed to the public interfaces of Wallet Selector, and at certain point, with the improvements on the protocol level and like this how to integrate wallets through the iframe kind of thing from the Hot team, they will potentially be just swapping the internal implementation while keeping the public APIs the same, and it would be hopefully a non-breaking change for the users while enabling this better, future-proofed wallet integration, wallet selector integration.
Okay, absolutely. While we're on the topic of this was born out of RFPs, if people don't already know, there's something called the Infrastructure Committee. Trent, you want to talk a little bit about like what that actually is for those who don't know what that is, like where the RFPs come from, and then we can kind of jump into what's out there today. But what is the Infrastructure Committee?
Yeah, so the Infrastructure Committee was formed by leadership across the NEAR ecosystem in the beginning of 2024 to address infrastructure concerns. So, the speed, performance, and reliability. And so their charter was they were given a large envelope of money and to work together to go out and improve providers, improve offerings on NEAR to make sure that things were working really great. It was really successful in that first year. A little bit just around about 2.5 million in grants given out in that first year. Probably 20 plus projects that were funded to shore up infrastructure, and it was pretty obvious by the end of the year that it had a good impact on our performance and reliability. So it was that's where it was. So we're in our second year now. And it was probably prescient to have something like the Infrastructure Committee as Pagoda as they decided to wind down. There was quite a bit of infrastructure that they provided to the ecosystem, and so having the Infrastructure Committee there to take on that transfer of those and decentralizing those providers was also a blessing. It was very significant work there as well, and that transition moved really smoothly, and we got we didn't have any downtime. We got this stuff moved, so that was really great. So that's what the Infrastructure Committee does. It's got various members on it. It's a volunteer organization. So our friend Vlad here is one of the members of the committee. We have Eugene from FastNear. We have Eric from NEAR AI. We have Bowen from NEAR One, and we have, who am I missing? Alex from Aurora. So I call it the OG crowd, right? It's the OG council, and they advise and they take a look at this technology and decide, if it's a good investment for the NEAR ecosystem.
Yeah,
and we are talking about projects like Explorers, wallets, projects like NEAR Lake, wallet selector, and services like that, basically. And trying to identify how to make it, and RPCs obviously, how to make it not just a forever funded, but also make it an economy of its own in NEAR ecosystem. So the infrastructure providers, like in true decentralized manner, have their own incentives, their own customers, and they have metrics they care about on their own. So we are setting them up for success. That's why, for example, the public free RPC offering has been significantly throttled. So the production applications should not rely on some free providers, because it's never free. Infrastructure is maintained. Someone needs to be in charge of timely updates and maintaining the performance of the services. The decentralization doesn't mean free options, but free entry. So anyone can run their own infrastructure, or you have an option to delegate it to someone, but delegation means you need to pay for this service. And thus LavaNet and FastNear are the biggest providers these days that I'm aware of. And we are trying to not compete with them, basically providing the free offering through the RPCs.
I think that is such an important piece where so many things early on were so heavily grant reliant that when that money dries up, if something changes, It is hard for the builder, in that case, for the infrastructure, to stay incentivized. So it's really important that people who are coming in, this is not just a grant program where you are, again, it's not a forever program. It is to hopefully kickstart you that meets a need that is in near too. That's the other thing I think is important here, is that it is not just anything. It is things that are actually actively have a need within the developer ecosystem, so that you have a potential audience already, because it is something that is needed. And I think that's a really strong part of this too, is that you're not coming in just hoping for the best. There is a lot of opportunity from day one.
Yep. That's a good
Right.
way to say it.
So, what are some of the things right now, Trenton, that are up for RFPs?
Yeah, right now the big RFP, we just extended the deadline on it for 2 weeks, is we're looking for someone to build us a multi-chain relayer to support NIR's intents and multi-chain. So if you want me to, I could post a link in the chat
Yeah, we can pull that up.
to that. Give me 1 second here. And I'm gonna just give me 1 second. There it is. There it is. Give me one. Here we go. Sorry. Too many tabs open. Too many
Sorry.
tabs. Too many tabs. All right. So there it is. A note to the group, at some point here, we're going to be having it. We'll have a different site for these to be posted on, but right now this is the one that's currently in use. You can submit a proposal here. You'll need a NIR social account to sign up. So be sure you have like one NIR on that, because it keeps a little bit for storage when you post. And I will also share a Telegram group link here with you. So if you run into some problems, you can talk to us. Let's see here. It's just called IC requests. But yeah, that's the first RFP. One of the things that our friend Conrad at Near Foundation, who's the head of partner success and infra success, we have a working group that supports the infrastructure committee. That's what I do. I'm a TPM that supports the infrastructure committee, and we are getting ready to gear up for another round of ideation and discussion on the next batch of RFPs. So there are definitely things that the infrastructure committee wants, and so that will be forthcoming. So there's more coming.
That's great. That's great.
But let's talk about this one.
Yeah, let's do it.
So from the name, chain abstracted layer RFP. So let's decouple it. RFP, and let's start from the end. So it's request for proposals. So we are searching for the teams who will be trying to offer the solution here. So there is just problem statements here, potential solutions, and yeah, let's dive in. Chain abstracted. This means that we are working in the space where it's not near only offering, but we're looking for the one-stop shop for the solution that would work for any of the chains that we are already abstracting through near chain signatures. And as such, we want to have a relayer. And what is a relayer? Relayer is the service, or potentially in some cases it could be an SDK plus some account where you have the funding accumulated, but usually you still need some backend service for that. That would be funding the requests, the funding the not funding, compensating the fees that is needed to submit a transaction to any of the chains out there. So all the blockchains operate in a mode that you have to pay for every transaction you send. So the transactions are not free, and you usually need to pay in the native token of the chain. So when you are building the cross-chain applications, you may often face the problem of that you need to sign transactions for the users on various chains, and you have to request the users to pay the fees. And if they are paying the fees in native tokens on the chain, it's you either request them to have those tokens, or you need to have some way to cover that up. And the solution in all the blockchains is usually a form of relayer. So instead of sending the transaction that you created to the blockchain itself, you send it to a relayer service, and that relayer service wraps up the transaction with their own transaction. So they compensate the fees associated with the transaction submission, and the fee itself is then charged from the relayer account, while the rest of the execution that was signed by the user account will be then processed as if there was no relayer involved. This way, it could have a very good improvement to the user experience. For if I'm the app developer and I don't want my users to immediately have some Near token, some ETH, Solana, any other token in order to work with my app, I can offset that by compensating some of their transactions. I can code up some logic in the relayer and decide which transactions I want to sponsor, or how many of those transactions from a single user I want to sponsor the fees for. But I want it to be very simple and easy. I don't want to build this from scratch all the time and maintain it for every single chain out there. So we are looking for a very simple solution for the app developers to use in order to make the user experience for their users streamlined and make sure that they can have their first, for example, 7 days trial period before they commit to have their own Near tokens, for example, on their account to compensate the costs.
Is another name for this, if people have been following along with chain abstraction, like a gas station? This is the same concept here. So I think for people who are interested, as a builder, right, one of the things that I have seen come up, but if you are working on chain abstraction stuff, is this is an issue of where how do you actually fund all of these different things? How do you make sure it's being handled properly? And can it be done in a way that is not, like you said, Vlad, standing up your own stuff every single time, all that other stuff. So a lot of opportunities here. Something you're already building, here's a great way to get some funding to help you get over the finish line, hopefully, and go from there as well. There's some really great stuff there. What is the timeline on this?
We extended the deadline till May 29th. So submissions, we're accepting submissions until the 29th. It usually takes about a week to deliberate. The infrastructure committee meets on Mondays once a week. So I would guess on average it would take about 2 weeks, probably. Some discussion on the first one and then some deliberation after they've narrowed it down. So 2 weeks max, I would think, before the decision is made.
And then the execution, it's up to the teams to define and propose, depending on their experience if they're building other gas stations, gas relayers, maybe they have a lot of experience there, and they would say, "Oh, it's not that much time. We'll do it in a month." Others may say, like, "Well, we don't have the experience, but we have a product vision, and we will be building it as this and that, and this is our first iteration MVP in 2 months, and then we will collect the feedback and iterate from there." That's also an option, and we will. Yeah, we'll hope to see several proposals to compare with. The previous ones, we usually had 4 to 7 competitive proposals, and in not even once we have selected 2. So it's not necessarily winner takes all situation, but both are usually really good proposals, attacking the space from different angles. Some from the product vision, others from the technical excellence. So both work.
Awesome stuff. Great. Other points about the infrastructure committee that we haven't touched on? Anything else that we think is relevant right now? All right. Well, I'd love to, if you guys stick around a little bit, I'd love to have your guys' take on some of the different news that's been coming out. A lot of great stuff that's been happening. And I definitely want to start with, let me pull up another slide here. So if we go back the past few weeks, there's been a lot of different things. And one of the big things right now that's been coming up a lot is the faster blocks and faster finality. This is from our newsletter a couple weeks back. We first kind of provided this information, including a link back to what Bowen Wang from Near One actually wrote about this protocol update. There's also some stuff around chain signatures, which we'll get to in a minute. But just the first part about block speed and finalization. Josh, we haven't brought you up too much yet. Starting with you, from like a developer standpoint, does that mean anything to a developer really at this point?
I mean, I think it does. Like, the faster you're able to finalize a transaction, return those result, the closer we're getting to bridging that gap between, what a blockchain experience or a DApp is and what a traditional Web 2 development experience is, right? Like,
Yeah.
When we first launched, and we were actually really quick compared to some of the other chains that are like, 5 minute or a few minutes finality. It definitely, creates like this, what am I interacting with? How is this experience? It's a hard sell for a developer to push out an application that a user has an expectation of that speed, right? And this is just another push in that direction, and us leading the forefront, or near leading the forefront of just quick blockchain block times that are enabling that experience that is seamless, that you don't have to have these optimistic, hopefully that this transaction will go through. No, it's actually going through this quickly, and therefore you're having these experiences that users can have. And I definitely think it's really important. It's super important.
Vlad, do you want to add to that?
Looks like you're gonna add something to it.
I came to Near from the Web 2 world, as many of us, I would say. And there, the expectation that when you make an API call to post some data, you want to get the results within half a second maximum.
Right.
Usually you actually expect it to happen within like 100 milliseconds. And this is not the case in many of the blockchains, including Near today. But we are on the trajectory to get this really on par with this experience of regular backends. And that will open up a lot of opportunities for just replacing the standard Web2 database that is not transparent, and you need to come up with some strategies how to make reliable in a way, with all the history and change of like keeping trace of changes if you want to have it, and replace that with a simple near calls and build your own smart contract to deliver that. Obviously, not every application needs to be living on the blockchain, but with these improvements of sub-second block production time and the transactions landing there this fast, this opens up a lot of opportunities and usability, user experience improvements for the end users, which is definitely welcome. And I think on Near, this is the what we can finally say that it's not a quirky blockchain where you have to deal with the fact that you submit some request and wait for 5-10 minutes and only then hope that it's actually there, and that is even at the and also at the cost of like hundreds, sometimes thousands more expensive than what we have on Near.
Sure. Is this something you guys know? So with this, because it's now speeding up the blocks, does it cut down the time of an epoch as well?
Yes, it did.
Or does the epoch length stay the same?
It did cut down the epoch time roughly by 30%. But another question that others may ask is whether it affected the rewards in any way, and that is not the case, because the rewards are tied to the number of seconds in a year, and when the epoch ends, it compares the timestamps of the first block in the epoch and the last block in the epoch, and rewards accordingly based on the projections for the whole year and the how it's called.
So it's not distributing more
minted
rewards
tokens
because there's
for a
more
year,
epics
yeah.
happening. Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Well, I
But,
mean,
from what I know, there is no plans to further shorten the epoch because there are some challenges with that.
sure.
And yet there is a plan to further reduce the time for block production, and there are some clever ideas that Bowen shared on Twitter recently.
Nice. And from here, where do you think you'll see this first pop up in products? Is this probably mostly like DeFi first, right? Like we're just finalizing transactions, swaps, things like that. Is this going to be noticeable in people's wallets and just other transactions? Like, is that something that, or does the rest of the app have to be kind of updated around handling this kind of speed? Like is it
applications don't need to be changed,
right?
and but the signing transactions will speed up, as I said, and at least by 30% if it's a very short transaction, and up to twice as fast for the transactions that involved multiple cross-contract calls and etc. On that
Nice.
front, while we're speaking about the perceived improvements of the speed, I can also recommend the app developers to check out the what they ask as a finality mode, and there are three modes basically. You can be very optimistic, and as soon as the transaction is delivered, you just say, okay, that's enough. I I don't care, let the user interact with my application. The second mode is when you're waiting for the transaction to be included and the receipts to be executed. But that's still optimistic in a way that unless the blocks are finalized, there could be a fork, and it could happen within those sub-seconds, several seconds. And then if for a majority of apps, that's also totally fine. But the safest default is to go with Doomslug finality, which happens once there is one extra block produced after the one that the receipts are included. And that usually happens within those 1.2 seconds. So that is the controls that you have when you submit a transaction. So when you call the broadcast transaction, all those options are there. So check out the documentation out there.
Yes. So to that also though too, Near One then also announced that chain signatures is also now mainnet with EDDSA support, which is chains like Solana, Ton, Stellar, Aptos, Sui, and so on. What is the and this is maybe just a more high level, like what is the developer experience at this point in Near, where you no longer, when you're building on Near, you're no longer just tied to the Near blockchain, but you have at the same time all this great infrastructure that's here, but then you have this opportunity to kind of really go across these things. Like, how are you guys thinking about posing this to developers coming in and saying like, you can start here and build everywhere? Like what is the messaging that you want to get across to people?
Josh, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome that I'm really excited about this, release that we now have the support. You can now build with Solana, and it unlocks another ecosystem that, Solana definitely leads a lot in like the NFT space. And, you want to have one account that can control and, basically transact across all these different chains. And we had support for Ethereum and all these other platforms, and now opening up to more chains is just obviously a better option for the developer, right?
Yep.
You don't have to sit there and like now deploy at each individual chain. You can now create one Near account, manage this one account that can then transact across all platforms. And then it's a better user experience too for the users, that they can sign up and create an account on, say, a dApp that can then perform these transactions or perform any kind of action across multiple chains by just having one account, rather than having to sit there and try to manage all these different accounts across all these different platforms. For me, it's just like simplifying things a lot and makes things easier. And the better, we continue to develop better tools and better, making it easier for developers to build and making it easier for users to use their applications that they create. So yeah, I mean, it feels like it's a no-brainer for me. I don't know. For all
it is no-brainer, and there is no alternative that I know, I'm aware of. And the what it opens up is basically this Lord of the Rings rule, one ring to rule them all.
One chain to rule them all.
One chain to rule them all. But in simpler terms, I believe that this is not only for the users to benefit from. Like, well, if I'm a user, I'm okay with having all those wallets, and it's maybe I'm using like 3 of them, and it's kind of manageable. But what it opens up is to basically build apps that just operate on their own, and or maybe like there is even a chain of applications that actually integrate with each other. and at any of those applications could also interact with the applications on another chain and manage some state there, the request to change some this or that on a different chain for this specific application, and the owner would be the smart contract, not the user, which is not the use case that we saw before, where the users would interact and be in charge of their own keys. We moved this a bit further away, and this opens up potential for agents and other programmable entities that would interact between each other and have a one place to have full transparent control over other blockchains and stuff. So.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting on a few different fronts, and I think that falls into the next kind of two-parter that I wanted to talk about in context of being a developer here on Near stuff. So, Proximity is sponsoring shade agents, and they're pushing out shade agents, which are, again, agents that kind of run in the background. So, right, they're not as upfront, and there's not, the front end isn't necessarily there. And then you have things like, you know, the announcement also this past issue here of passkeys. So the algorithm that goes into passkeys support on the runtime level of Near blockchains. So now really reduces the need for different kind of identification, right? So like you can just come in with your phone and you're off and running all the way from there. With all of this, so now you have this cross chain, you have agents, you have ability to really abstract so much stuff. You can use just the biometrics that are built into the phones, all that stuff. How, I mean, as a developer now, with like you have this almost like abundance of choices of how you start to design your product. What is the thought? Like, where do you have someone start? And maybe train you as a TPM, you know, and you think about these problems of like, how do we organize all this stuff? Like, where do you go with all this? Where do you begin? Because you could be spinning your wheels for weeks just figuring out like, how am I going to architect my app here?
Yeah. I think Hot Wallet had a lot of success just implementing one-click connect to help them leverage Near Intents. And I think that if I was to start doing something with payments or with transactions on my app, I think I'd start there. I'd start just to look at that implementation. And at the minimum, it's going to give you some ideas about how you might want to implement it, right? Yeah, I think I work at Near Dev now, and I work with some really savvy people that build documentation. So I do still think that docs.near.org is a fantastic resource. You know, it's just about kind of understanding the core transactions. I mean, when I look at these changes, fundamentally, if you want to develop on Near and you understand how to interact with smart contracts, the fundamentals are there, right? So
right.
The other, you know, you're gonna you can load up a user's wallet, and we're basically housing assets, you know, directly on their account, right? So I think that I don't think there's a lot of differences, and Vlad could probably speak to this a little better than I can. But when I'm looking at this from the 10,000 foot level, I'm still seeing the basic interactions, the fees, right? The time to finality, the speed of the Near network, and then the fees are like significantly lower, right? Than you would find in a lot of places. So I feel like there could be a lot of advantages for app builders that do want to have that that compatibility and that broadness, right? So I think where the low-hanging fruit here is for the dev world right now is to remove some of the complexity around the technology, right? Like crypto is tends to be pretty focused on technically adept people. And with the advent of things like shade agents, with intents, right, you should have the ability to abstract some of this away. And when we say it's more like obfuscate, right? You should be able to obfuscate some of this complexity to the end user. So, for example, if my wallet holds 5 different assets, and I need to transact with a network, at some point in the future, having agents that could go out and tell you like where's the cheapest fees are, where the fastest stuff is. I'm still convinced that's going to be on Near, but you could, or maybe be able to pay your fees, or your native fees, which is cheaper, so you could use your Sol, whatever, to pay those fees if you had them in your wallet, options like that. But yeah, I think the fundamentals are still going to be the same, right? And it's going to be how the app developers figure out ways to leverage that backend technology, like intents, like multi-chain, in a way that the end user doesn't need to really know about it, right? So I have an NFT marketplace. I want to mint an NFT, and like, how do you want to pay for this, right? How do you want to pay for the mint? And your wallet, your Near wallet, is connected to the marketplace, and you pick from one of the assets and you transfer that asset, and you're done, right? So I don't think this is. I think all this is doing is expanding our devs' ability to literally interact with multiple chains, being more chain agnostic, right, and creating something that is going to have a wider appeal, which then broadens your audience, right? So
for sure.
So yeah, I think that the fundamentals are there. Take a look at One Click Connect. Some other people have learned from it, and
yeah, I think that's a really interesting point there, around like the fundamentals haven't changed. So if you're looking to build a particular product, stuff's there. What we have seen though is better, more efficient ways to do things, cheaper way to do things that provide a better user experience. So the goal, I feel like, for someone, I mean, just my opinion coming into here, is let's not try to build everything yourself. Let's leverage what's here. Let's leverage what the infrastructure already provides you, both at the protocol level and beyond, and really streamlining your product. Think about like, what's your end goal? What are you trying to do? Like you said, are you trying to just buy an NFT? Great. All right, here are different options. Now, instead of it just being a simple transaction, hey, maybe you add in the ability to pay for it with any token. Now that's the next step, but you don't have to build that yourself. Those pieces are here. So that I really like that approach. It's like the fundamentals haven't changed of building. We really just made it more streamlined, stuff like that. Josh, what do you guys think about some of the stuff here?
Yeah, like, well, say, kind of like answer your question, like, where do you get started? It's like, I don't know, like, if you're like, if you were to go to like npm and like, all right, I want to create a React app. All right, look at all these packages. Which one do I import? Like, where do I get started? It seems so like, or I'm going to the grocery store. Where do I get? There's so many choices here. It's difficult, right? It's difficult to say like, what do we want to hone in on, because it's like, Near doesn't really have like this, we're just doing this one little thing. Like, it started out as like, okay, let's just make blockchain development easier, both for the developer and both for the user. Let's make it quick and easy to develop. And it's been like an evolution of that, of like trying to just, focus in on little areas and make these certain things easier to build with and easier to develop. And we have like this large ecosystem of people that have different interests and have different areas of expertise, of like, Proximity is focusing in on the DeFi stuff, and they really want to, focus in on like multi-chain stuff. And then you have like, oh, now we have these chain signatures folks that are like, oh wait, maybe we could do this around MCP. And then we have Near AI that's like, spun up and trying to make that easy as possible to develop agents, and just a couple lines of Python, I can get an agent up and running. I can just have some free inference, and so we have a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of like this evolution of an ecosystem. And it's kind of hard to like going to Disneyland, what ride should I ride first, or what am I actually trying to do? But yeah, it's like, hopefully you come here with like a problem that you're trying to solve. And if you're trying to solve that problem, yeah, definitely docs.near.org is the best place to start. And if you can't find your issue there, there's a little helper thing, feedback, hit that button there, and a team of DevRel engineers, we look at them every week, or periodically, even more than that, seeing, someone couldn't find something. Let's make sure that we can find that. And if you don't find that there's a treasure trove of Telegram groups you could see if you go to just our GitHub/near. There's a developer support button, and it takes you to this folder, and you got 20 different groups of different areas of things. We're talking about that, like, how can we consolidate? Well, it's different groups of different people that want to build different things and want to focus on different things. So it can be definitely a very tall order to say, where do you start as a developer? And I guess it's starting by, what's your problem? And it's like more questions that I have for you. It's like, what are you trying to solve? What are you trying to do? And ultimately, like, the holistic goal here is for us to create more simpler ways to integrate, more simpler, like, little packages or little examples that you can, like, plug and play Lego blocks of, making it more and more simple for you as a developer to build something, and for a user, abstracting away the complexities of blockchain I don't really understand. And maybe you don't even need to know that you're operating on a blockchain, and the developer can make an application that is giving you the benefits of things, and can tell their users, hey, I'm going to give you, this is what my application will do. This is why, it's secure, or, do their own attraction around the use case that they're trying to show. But, don't worry about all these complexities. You don't have to manage all this stuff. I can do this for you, kind of thing. So
absolutely.
For old, you got something to
I have a shorter but more abstract answer.
Sorry.
Be curious. Like, if you want where to start, start to be curious, and you will find the ways.
No, and I do think the part of that goes back to what Trent was saying. Like, there's so many things that kind of exist in pieces already, that if you want to just go experiment, take a weekend, take a couple nights, go experiment with some different things. It's low lift. You can really get into it pretty quickly, without having to code everything yourself. Between that and AI, I mean, you could be off and running pretty quickly, no problem. I do want to end on one last story here I think is relevant for builders, and especially if you're looking around agents, but more so than even just that. But, really looking at different payment options. And Near worked with Coinbase on this new standard for internet native payments. This is still a work in progress. I definitely think if you haven't, this is in our episode issue number 61, the most recent one. It's worth kind of going through, reading through this, seeing how it works with the Near Intense demo. But just again, I think as streamlining more and more payments, to me, feels like a great way to help bring more non-native crypto users into whatever product you're building. The more opportunities you have, whether it's for an agent or whether it's for something else, the more that you can kind of really leverage that. And they're really basing this off of a lot of stuff of USDC, which again I think feels more comfortable to a lot more people. Right? It's a dollar is a dollar is a dollar type of thing, versus what am I speculating on, stuff like that. You guys have any thoughts around this?
Yeah, I do. Well, first of all, not the whole world is using dollar.
Right.
Just a reminder.
Really? Are you okay?
Well,
wow. Yeah. Thanks for a reminder.
Yeah. So that could be like as equally confusing as equally, like for some people using dollar could be as confusing as using Bitcoin. From in their realm. But the beauty of the blockchain world, that we can basically mimic any currency there. And what I wanted to say when I first saw the standard, I was like, oh, so we are in a way we're going by spiral of evolution here, because if you remember the early days of the internet, we paid per megabyte. So we kind of paid per packets already, but they were not the like business logic driven. but just data-driven payments. So like the more data you consume and send, the more you pay. And this is a new iteration of opportunities to pay per content, per engagement, and there are a lot of social platforms that are bringing this up with pay by like, by this interaction, sponsoring the creators, sponsoring the businesses that you care about. So this is the nice improvement and potential change in the approach for monetization through tiny micropayments. Imagine you would sponsor Wikipedia when you are reading the article, and etc. etc. So it's interesting approach, in my opinion, and we would need to think through the new monetization models for this to leverage. That's something that I wanted to add here.
Yeah. Trent,
Anyone
Josh,
else
anything
wants
else?
to?
End on that. Strong note. Strong note to end on. I like it. Well, thank you three so much for kind of coming on, sharing your knowledge, going through kind of what's happening in the ecosystem. There is so much. Each and every week, we have a full newsletter that comes out to summarize all of this. The subscription link is down below. Definitely check that out. You can stay up to date on all of that. We'll continue to go over news things that we think are relevant as well here on DevHub Live. Just as a reminder, again, and Josh and Trenton kind of hammered this home, but if you have questions, if you want to, not sure where to get started building, jump into one of the groups on Discord, on Telegram, ask a question. There'll definitely be someone who will jump in. Not even just us, can be someone from the community as well. It's a really helpful community who can jump in and help you from there. Overall, I thought this was great. Hopefully everybody learned something, and we will be back next week. Same time. We have 2 different things planned coming up over the next month that I think are really great for developers, and so we hope to see you back then. But until next week, I'm Joe. These are my wonderful guests, and we will see you same time next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.